You know, it's funny. We spend so much time trying to understand the people we love. We analyze their words. We look for meaning in their smiles. We try to connect. But what about the feelings that aren't said? The ones that linger just beneath the surface of a conversation, like a cold current in a seemingly warm sea. That's the real mystery, isn't it? The unspoken language of the human heart. Today, I want to take you on a journey into that hidden world. We're going to talk about one of the most painful and confusing things that can happen in a relationship. The chilling possibility that someone close to you might secretly harbor a deep, unspoken hatred for you. And to guide us, we're not going to use a modern-day guru. We're going to go back to one of the great explorers of the human psyche, a man who mapped the uncharted territories of our minds, the legendary Carl Jung. Jung's work wasn't just about diagnosing problems. It was about understanding the very architecture of the human soul. He showed us that our conscious mind, the part we think of as us, is just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface lies a vast, deep ocean of memories, impulses, and emotions we've forgotten, or, more importantly, emotions we've actively tried to bury. This is the realm of the unconscious, and it's from this dark, hidden place that something like secret hatred often emerges. So let's begin by understanding what we're even talking about. What is this secret hatred? Well, according to Jung, it's not a simple emotion you can just point to. It's more like a ghost in the machine of a person's personality. It's an emotion that the person themselves may not even be aware of, a feeling so uncomfortable, so unacceptable, that their own mind refuses to acknowledge it. Think about that for a second. We're talking about a hatred that is so well hidden. It's hidden even from the person who feels it. Why would the mind do such a thing? Jung would say it's a basic survival mechanism. Our conscious self, the face we show the world, wants to see itself as good, kind, and moral. Hatred, especially towards someone we're supposed to love, a family member, a partner, a close friend, is a direct violation of that self-image. It's socially unacceptable. It feels ugly. So what do? We shove it down. We deny it. We tell ourselves, I don't hate them. I'm just frustrated, or I'm just tired. But here's the crucial part that Jung spent his life explaining. Those buried feelings don't just vanish. They don't dissolve. They have a life of their own in the shadowy basement of the unconscious. And, like any trapped energy, they must find a way out. They leak. They seep through the cracks in our personality in ways that are indirect, subtle, and often incredibly destructive. This brings us to one of Jung's most powerful ideas, the shadow. Jung believed that within each of us, there's a hidden side, a shadow self. This shadow is like a secret repository for everything we don't want to be. Our primitive impulses, our shameful desires, our fears, our angers, all the parts of ourselves that we've decided are too dark, too selfish, or too unacceptable to admit into the light of our conscious identity. We spend a lot of energy trying to keep this shadow locked away. We build walls against it. But the shadow is stubborn. It wants to be seen, to be acknowledged. And if we refuse to look at it, it finds other ways to make its presence known. Secret hatred, Jung would argue, is very often the shadow's work. It's the shadow projecting its own conflicted, negative contents onto other people. In a way, the person you secretly hate becomes a kind of screen onto which your own unconscious darkness is projected. You see, it's easier to see a flaw in someone else than to admit it in yourself. So, instead of confronting the hateful feelings inside, a person might unconsciously project them outward. They might become hyper-aware of anger or selfishness in you, when in fact, they are seeing a reflection of their own repressed anger and selfishness. This is a completely unconscious process. The person isn't being deliberately deceitful. On a conscious level, they genuinely believe you're the problem. This is the psychological bedrock of secret hatred, a deep internal conflict between who we think we are and the dark feelings we can't admit, which then gets played out in the external world through projection. So, if this hatred is secret, even from the person feeling it, how can you possibly spot it? They're not going to come out and say it. The signs are not in their words, but in the music behind the words, in their behavior, their tone, the tiny, almost imperceptible shifts in the atmosphere when you're together. Let's walk through some of these behavioral clues, the silent alarms that Jung's psychology helps us understand. One of the most common signs is a pattern of constant, low-grade criticism and belittling. It's never a direct attack. It's not a shouting match. Instead, it's 1,000 tiny cuts, a backhanded compliment, a subtle put-down disguised as a joke, a constant questioning of your decisions. Oh, you chose that restaurant. Or that's an interesting way to do it. From a Jungian perspective, this criticism is a defense mechanism. The conscious mind, which wants to maintain an image of being a nice person, can't express direct hatred. So, the repressed negativity finds a socially acceptable outlet through constant, nitpicking criticism. It's the shadow's way of needling you, of expressing its hostility without ever having to take responsibility for it. Then there's emotional distancing and withdrawal. This one is particularly insidious. You might feel the person growing cold, but when you ask them what's wrong, they insist everything is fine. They become quieter. They stop sharing details about their day. They seem physically present but emotionally absent. Jung would see this as a conscious or unconscious attempt to create a buffer. By putting emotional distance between you, they are trying to manage the internal discomfort caused by their repressed feelings. Getting too close feels dangerous because it might trigger the very emotions they're working so hard to suppress. So, they retreat into a silent, cold fortress. Another red flag is a decrease in reliability. They start breaking small promises. They show up late consistently. They forget things that are important to you. On the surface, it might look like simple carelessness or a busy schedule. But in the context of other signs, it can be a passive-aggressive expression of hidden hostility. It is a way of undermining you and devaluing your time and feelings without ever saying a negative word. It's the shadow saying, "You're not important enough for me to make an effort." And finally, there's emotional manipulation. This is where it gets really tricky. The person might use guilt trips, play the victim, or employ sarcasm that's just sharp enough to hurt, but vague enough to be denied. They might twist your words or use your own vulnerabilities against you in subtle ways. From a Jungian viewpoint, this manipulation is often an indirect attempt by the unconscious to gain a sense of control. The person feels a deep-seated vulnerability and powerlessness rising from their own internal conflict, and manipulating the relationship becomes a twisted way to feel powerful again. It's the shadow pulling strings from the darkness. Now, you might notice that all of these behaviors have one thing in common. They're indirect. They're the language of the unconscious, not the conscious mind. This is the critical difference that Jung highlighted. Our conscious behavior is what we intend. It's deliberate, thought out, and aligned with our self-image. I decide to help a friend because I consciously feel love and compassion. But our unconscious behavior is a whole different story. It's driven by the ghosts in the machine, the repressed emotions, the shadow material. A person can consciously believe they love and respect you, while their unconscious is simmering with resentment and anger. This creates a profound internal split. Their words might say one thing, but their actions, their energy, their subtle behavior say something else entirely. This inconsistency is often what we pick up on intuitively. We feel that something is off. We can't quite put our finger on it, but the emotional connection feels strained, inauthentic. This internal split becomes most apparent in the way people communicate. When there's harmony, communication flows. There's warmth in the voice, engagement in the eyes, a sense of mutual presence. But when secret hatred is at play, the communication channel becomes corrupted. You might notice a coldness in their tone, avoidance of eye contact, a tendency to give short, non-committal answers. The space between words becomes heavy with unspoken negativity. Jung believed the human psyche is incredibly sensitive to these nonverbal cues. Even if no harsh words are ever spoken, you can feel the emotional withdrawal. It's like a slow, steady drop in temperature until the relationship freezes over. So, what can be done? If you find yourself on the receiving end of this, or if you're worried you might be the one harboring these hidden feelings, is there a way out? According to Jung, there absolutely is, but it requires courage and a willingness to take an inward journey. The first and most crucial step is developing self-awareness. This is the cornerstone of Jungian therapy. You have to be brave enough to turn a light on in the basement of your own psyche. This means sitting quietly with yourself and asking the hard questions. Am I feeling anger I'm not admitting? Is there resentment beneath my surface? Does this person reflect a part of myself I dislike? This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about reclaiming power by understanding your own inner dynamics. The next step is to confront and acknowledge those shadow emotions. Jung believed that by bringing these repressed feelings into the light of consciousness, they lose their destructive power. It's like admitting the monster under the bed is actually just a pile of old clothes. The act of naming the feeling, I am feeling hatred, is incredibly powerful. It robs the shadow of its control over you. Then, try to cultivate empathy. This might seem counterintuitive when dealing with hatred, but it's essential. Often, our hatred for others is triggered by our own unseen pain or fear. And similarly, if someone is directing secret hatred toward you, it is almost certainly coming from a place of their own deep, unhealed wounding. Trying to understand their perspective, without excusing their behavior, can help dissolve the negative energy. It transforms the situation from a battle between good and evil into a tragic clash of wounded human beings. Finally, there's the work of self-evaluation and forgiveness. Jungian psychology is ultimately about wholeness, about integrating the shadow into the larger self. This means questioning your own values. Why does this person's behavior trigger such a strong reaction in me? What does it touch on in my own value system? By understanding this, you can start to build a stronger, more resilient sense of self. And from that place of strength, forgiveness becomes possible. Not just forgiving the other person, but forgiving yourself for having these unacceptable feelings in the first place. Healing from the effects of secret hatred, whether you're giving it or receiving it, is a deep and profound process. It's not a quick fix. It's an inner pilgrimage. But by using the map that Carl Jung left for us, by understanding the unconscious, the shadow, and projection, we can navigate this difficult terrain. We can move from a place of confusion and pain to a place of greater awareness, authenticity, and ultimately, healthier relationships with others and, most importantly, with ourselves. So, the next time you feel that strange, cold current in a relationship, remember the hidden world Jung revealed. Listen not just to the words being spoken, but to the silent language of behavior. Have the courage to look within, because the journey to understanding others always begins with the brave and often frightening journey into the depths of your own soul. Thanks for joining me on this exploration. If these ideas resonate with you, and you want to continue this journey of understanding the hidden forces that shape our lives and relationships, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content. See you next time.